Hi, Ariel. I have seen you do the thing recently where you drop hints indirectly, and recently you've been talking about Aspinall Jones and how more likely you think it's going to happen given it's a renegotiation year, and that Jones needs 6 months and that there was talks of August. Be honest with us. Mr. Helwani, what do you know? I saw that a couple of sites, I think it was Happy Punch and another, ran with the 6-month thing that I said yesterday. No, they ran with it yesterday, and I said it last week, more than a week ago. I don't know how that came up. Listen, I tell you guys what I know, and we all know that they want to make the fight. We all know that Aspinall is in. And I don't need to be some kind of insider to tell you this. He has said it himself. We all know that he's meeting with the brass this week in London. We know that Jon Jones is in at a certain price. We believe that price is in the vicinity of $30 million. We all agree that he is worth that price. We all agree that they should make that fight and pay him that amount of money. And I personally think that in a time period where they're trying to drum up interest and buzz and hype as they, they take their U.S. broadcast rights to the market, I believe having a fight like that is very beneficial. Does it happen in August? Does it happen in October? Does it happen in November here in New York City? That remains to be seen. But it is not a done deal, and I'm not trying to be coy. This isn't one of those things where I know it's a done deal and I'm trying to get ahead of it. It's not one of those things. I'm just telling you what I know in real time. I can also imagine that at some point, Tom Aspinall's patience going to wear thin. When can we start to have the conversation that this guy's career has been somewhat stalled and derailed because of this? Are we there yet?
We've been there.
We've been there.
Yes.
Yeah. It's past time.
It's past. If I'm Tom Aspinall, how old is Tom Aspinall? 31? How old is he? 31. He turns 32 in April.
By the way, when we think about conversations like this, we were ready to have that conversation about Michael Chandler the moment it was announced that he would even be talking about Conor McGregor. People were rushing to have that type of conversation. Yeah, I think we're way past expiration on the idea of waiting for Jon Jones is a fool's errand at a certain
Just
point.
to refresh your memory, he injures his knee in July of 2022. He's out the whole year. He comes back exactly a year later, almost to the day. He beats Marcin Tybura. He had nothing on the books after that, but then you got the Jones injury. They call him 2 weeks prior. He beats Sergey Pavlovich. That's in November of 23. So he gets 2 fights in 23. That's not bad. That's kind of, on par. His next fight after November of 23 is July of 24. Okay, I don't think that's crazy, right? That's 8 months later. That's kind of on par with the top dogs. He's got nothing on the books now. We are approaching, it will be a year. There's no way he fights before July. I would be shocked. Unless they pull a rabbit out of their hat and they put him on International Fight Week, I would be truly shocked. So he will have sat out a year. He fought for a minute against Curtis Blades. He fought for 69 seconds against Sergey Pavlovich. He fought for 73 seconds against Marcin Tybura. Since he injured his knee, which, by the way, was a 15-second fight, he has fought for less than 4 minutes combined in 3 fights since July of 2022. This is a travesty. This is a travesty. The guy needs to fight. We gotta figure this out. And at what point does the UFC say, all right, we're not going to meet your number. We're going to move on. We're going to take the belt away. And if you want to come back or if something tickles your fancy, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I'm not here saying they need to do X, Y, and Z by X, Y, and Z date, but it feels like we are inching closer. And if I'm Tom and his father and his team, I'm saying how much longer? I'm sitting down at this meeting this weekend and being like, what's the plan, guys? What are we doing here? Could we set some kind of deadline? Could we set some kind of markers? If we are not close by June, can we move on? Can I move on?
Now, do you think that Tom wants to move on?
Absolutely. No, I think Tom wants to fight Jon Jones. But I also think that he doesn't want to sit around forever.
Yeah.
He's not going to do the 2-year thing. There's no way. He's in his prime. You could make a case that Chandler wasn't in his prime, so he could afford to sit out. He was.
Plus, we're talking Conor McGregor. It's a different.
We're also talking
level.
Big money fight versus just trying to get the undisputed belt.
I think it'll be a huge fight. It's not Conor, but my sense of it.
Close.
Do you think it's the closest you can get at this moment? if you were Tom Aspinall and you went to the UFC yesterday and said, all right, look, I'm tired of waiting for Jon Jones. Give me another fight. You don't think they would have already given it to him?
No, okay. So this is where the detractors will push back. They'll say, well, Tom did say that he's not fighting unless it's for the undisputed title. Because I think the UFC would then say, oh, yeah, you could fight, but you'll just have to defend your interim belt. You know what I mean? So he is putting one kind of stipulation on there. And by the way, I think he has every right
It's
to.
a fair one.
This is a negotiation.
Yep.
And he's saying, like, I'm not going to be your interim champ, which, by the way, you see in Joseph Parker has been the interim champ for God knows how long. And it's stupid. It doesn't make any sense.
Can I ask a question, Ariel?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm wondering, right? Thank you. Love my boys.
Yeah.
Just want to know what you think of this. Do you think the UFC are reluctant to make any big moves with Jon? Like, I mean, as far as the conversation was going, if this keeps going, right, we're saying, will they force Jones to vacate the title so Tom can fight someone else for the undisputed, like, you know, for the title? I'm wondering, do you think they are reluctant to do that with the broadcast deal coming up? They want to have Jon Jones. They want to be able to pitch Jon Jones to these potential suitors. They don't want to make a drastic move in case he goes away completely.
In other words, are you saying, are they trying to save Jon for when the new deal kicks in?
Not
or
necessarily.
they just don't want to alienate him.
He wants Jon on side. He's saying keep Jon on side by making him happy.
Don't make a drastic move. We want to be able to pitch this guy to don't in July say, right, well, if you're not going to fight him, we're stripping you. Tom is fighting Marcin Tybura again. You know, they want to keep him on side to a certain degree because they don't want to rock the boat because they want to dangle him as a carrot to these potential broadcast partners.
Can I say, I think that they believe he only has 1 or 2 left max. And so I don't think that they are worried about that. I think that kind of thinking applies more to McGregor. You know what I mean? Like, McGregor has 2 fights left. He's younger. I think they would prefer to keep him on ice. I think with Jon, they know they only have 1 or 2 left. And so they're not pushing him right now, to the best of my knowledge, by the way. To the best of my knowledge, it's just kind of been like a stalemate. You know what I mean? And at some point, the rubber is going to have to meet the road and someone's going to have to make a call. But as we've said time and again, they don't necessarily have to make that call just yet. They are not in a position where they're desperate. They're not in a position where I think Aspinall is making them make a call, setting some kind of deadline, ultimatum. They're not there just yet. And so that's the question I was bringing up earlier. When do we get to that point? When does that point actually commence?
You've said it perfectly. Like, Aspinall is not forcing them to make that call, but also the UFC knows that Aspinall is the easier one to make amends with if they need to, right? With Jon Jones, you've got a quantity that you're trying to grab a hold of, but he could just as easily go away. So you have to be very careful. It's a deer, you know, like, you don't want to spook it. You have to keep Jon Jones on side, and you have to handle this very delicately, because if he goes away, that's gone now. Now that's out of the window, and you have to go with the other plan. Tom Aspinall, they can make amends with him. He's the one who's ready to sign up. Do it right now. Easy to work with. Like, there's nothing to worry about on that side. You only have to kind of manage this side. The part you have to manage with Aspinall is, like, if he goes, I want to fight and I only want to fight for undisputed, like you're saying, Ariel, that is now, you do have a conundrum on your hands where you do have to figure that out. Do we risk upsetting Jon Jones in order to empower this champion who's ready and willing and able to fight for us? It's a tricky one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I would say 100% yes. I'm not sure I'd rush to do it, but it's a tricky one.
From a historical perspective, it's amazing because historically the UFC has pretty much made all the big fights, except in one weight class. Like, dating back to, Couture and Fedor, Jones and Ngannou. There was the Lesnar-Fedor stuff. This particular fight, it's weird that everything kind of like goes to the heavyweight division. And I'm not saying that the heavyweight division is the glamour division of the UFC. It's never been. In fact, because of Jon Jones, it was probably light heavyweight. And prior to that, of course, with Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz, light heavyweight always felt like our heavyweight division, if you get what I'm saying. It is amazing, though. They have been able, and yes, there are some outliers here and there. For the most part, at 170, GSP fought everyone, including Nick Diaz, including BJ Penn again, et cetera, et cetera. At 185, Anderson Silva fought everyone that was available. Now, there was the Anderson GSP fight that people always talked about, but there was 15 pounds between them, and I don't think GSP ever really wanted that fight. And you could say the same at featherweight with Aldo and McGregor, but at heavyweight, for whatever reason, it has proven to be a tricky one.
I think I have a reason. It may be an oversimplification, and maybe this is devoid of the context at the times, but there is a limited talent pool. And when you have a limited talent pool, it is a lot harder to make compelling matchups. And therefore, the people in those matchups can demand a higher price tag. When you've got featherweight and you've got 10 guys who you could conceivably say are great and you'd want to watch fight for a title, that's different than when you're going, shit, there really aren't a lot of heavyweights. Because if you can name somebody outside of John or Tom who could draw a dollar, I'd be shocked. It just does not. It's a very limited talent pool, especially right now. Like I don't think heavyweight's ever been more desolate. And so you're looking around and going, if I'm Jon Jones or Tom Aspinall, I'm super valuable. Or Francis Ngannou previously, I'm super valuable, and I should be paid as such to make this big fight happen.
Heavyweights are also kind of like they're larger than life. They have big egos. That's just the way it is. They're the big dogs. They're the alpha males, and so let's see in this era where the UFC is getting into boxing. And when I say the UFC, I mean Dana White and the TKO brass, and they talk about making the big fights. Can they make this big one?
Will Tom Aspinall's
under their roof
next fight be for undisputed heavyweight?
Has to be.
Well, the tougher question to answer is, will it be against Jon Jones?
Why?
Because I think the next time we see him fight, he will have. I think Aspinall's going to stick to his guns, and I think the next time we see him fight, it will be for that title. The question is he fighting against Jon Jones?
Honestly, I find that compelling. Because that would mean that something happened with the Jon Jones side of it, and I'd be interested in that too. So if you think that his next fight will be for undisputed heavyweight gold, I'm compelled by that.
What worries me is that they say we're saving this for New York, and
give
now
themselves more time to kind of.
Well, yeah, and Aspinall has to wait another 8 months. That's in 8 months.
But do they say we're saving it for New York to actually have it happen in New York, or to save the time and say?
No, you know them. They earmark dates. John Stipe could have happened before New York, but they wanted it for MSG. They sometimes, so they don't care about Tom's
dangerous game
timeline. They don't care about that timeline at all. They have things laid out, and they want certain fights in certain places, and that worries me because if they tell Tom, please just sit tight. You are getting this fight. You're just going to have to wait a couple months. And then he waits those months and then it doesn't happen. Sound familiar? Chandler McGregor? And then what does he do? Now he's staring at, being 32 and wasting prime years of his life.
I think that would be a good point to say we cannot hold this any longer. That would be the point for me.
Thanks for watching this video. Before you go, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for us. Also, give us a thumbs up, leave a nice comment. These things go a long way. And while you're here, do check out the rest of the channel. We've got live shows and full interviews, clips, and a whole lot more. We're doing big things here, and we appreciate your support very much.